Howdy, y'all. I hope you'll share this, whatever social media platform you're watching this. We're live on 7 right now. And then, of course, it's going to go on rumble.com/do not talk after I add the graphics and all that kind of stuff. And Facebook deleted all my pages so last year. And, of course, Instagram, too, which is owned by Facebook. So I don't have any way of 40,000 people I used to be able to let know, hey, I got a new show out. No, I don't. It's gone. Been deleted from the platform. I've heard it all. Oh, you can start up another page, Charlie. No, you don't understand. I've tried. They've deleted me from the platform. Has to do with an IRL. They know who you are. Change the name all you want. They don't want you on there. You're not going to get on there. So you can share these shows. That helps. But I'm going to be on live with Ron BOUCHARD here on this July 29th, 2026. You're in for a treat. And here we go. 5, 4, 3. I love smart people. I've got a high IQ. My dad was a genius. My mom, not so much. Kind of shallowed out the gene pool. So it's just fact. It's just fact. So my brother and I were right about the 130, 135 IQ range. So we're not genius, but we're smarter than average. But I don't have the learning. I haven't been to college. I didn't make it even through junior college. Got halfway through and I got my first professional job in radio and television. And I went, well, that's what I was going to school for, was learn how to do something else besides bucking hay 3 times a day and feeding the cattle. I'm just a good old boy from Bakersfield. But I've got a whole career, a whole life of having fun, party kind of life. Got saved when I was 31. That definitely changed the direction. It was a absolute paradigm, that shift, 180. Because I was living like a rock star. I was making myself God. I was living to please myself. It's what you do when you don't have the Lord and you're doing everything for you. Just made yourself God, haven't you? Which ultimately means you're working against Christ Jesus. And you're doing your father's work, the devil, just as quickly as possible, for his time is short, until you give your life to Christ and actually follow him. Words are easy. Picking up your cross every day, dying to self daily, like Paul wrote. Different story. Worth it. Retirement package is fantastic. Best in the universe. Not going to get any better than that retirement package. So it's a blessing just to get to be able to do these shows and introduce you to people like my guest today, Ron BOUCHARD. My friend Simone Anderson introduced me to him. And also, I think Johanna out in New York told me about Ron. Oh, you got to have Ron on. People don't have Ron on. And that's what I do on my show. It's called Do Not Talk, because I talk about 2 things you're never supposed to talk about: politics and religion. And I talk to people that everyone else doesn't want to talk to. Or even people in my own party tell me, don't talk to those people. They'll make you look bad, Charlie. We can't associate with you. We can't encourage you. We can't promote your show in the political party, in the Republican Party, if you have J6ers on. Oh, you got that guy on who started the Oath Keepers? Yeah, no, sorry, Charlie. We can't talk to you anymore. We can't include you in our events. You don't get to play in any of our reindeer games. Whatever. I'm going to keep bringing people like Ron BOUCHARD to you. And you can help, if you don't mind, 2 things. You can like this show, hit that like button, and that helps with the algorithms. And then the platform, wherever you're watching this, will go, hey, Charlie's got a little attention there. And we're going to promote him because we want more people watching rumble.com. We want more people watching whatever. I'm on twitch.tv right now. Nobody seems to know what Twitch is, but I'm on there. And they'll promote these shows. And so you'll help just by hitting the like button. It's really simple. And commenting. When you comment, make sure it's 5 words or more, because otherwise they count it as a bot. That's just the stupidity going on right now in social media for we media people doing this alternative media thing. So just a like and a comment really goes a long way. Thank you very much for your support through my website. That's the other thing I want to ask you to do. Let's go there and buy yourself one of these mugs. Let's talk about politics and religion. Come on. I got hats. I got shirts. Sounds to be my favorite hat right now. Hope is right about everything. I got all kinds of stuff there, but you won't know unless you go charliesimons.com right there. charliesimons.com, CHERLEE, because my name's Charles Lee. SIMONS.com, charliesimons.com. You can give there too if you can. Help, please. Buy me some coffee. Buy me a tank of gas. California, that's about $100 now. That'd be nice. Thank you. All right. Enough of that. Let's get on with the show. Ron BOUCHARD on Do Not Talk. He's back, and I'm glad of it. You're going to enjoy this. Ready? Hit it. Stupid technical error. I'll fix it in post. That's what you always say. Fix it in post. Ron, what's going on?
Hello. Nice to be back with you. Long time.
Thank you. Thank you, buddy. It has been a while, way too long. And what's the progress on your end out there in Massachusetts? Are you actually in Boston?
No, I'm half an hour south of Boston, 45 minutes south of Boston.
So one of my favorite stories about my little walkabout I took one time. My dad, he died when I was 24, and one of his dreams was always, he was a hardcore patriot. He always wanted to see the New England states. He wanted to tour the New England states because that's where we started. It's where the whole dang thing started, out there in the New England states, and the original 13 colonies. He always wanted to see that. So after he died, I thought, dang it. In a car accident. I was 24. And it took me a few years, but I finally made it for him. I did it for him. And one of my favorite stories of my little walkabout there was Boston. My first time ever there. Haven't been back since. Walking that walk. They've got a trail.
Freedom Trail.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I walked it. I walked the whole dang thing. I actually went into one of your old restaurants there, which was like 4 stories high, very narrow staircase, all the way up, all the way up, all the way up to get myself some Boston clam chowder. And it was very legit. The restaurant itself had been there for 200 something years.
The Oyster House?
I don't even remember the name of it now.
Yeah.
But the history of it was so amazing. What's that? Falal Hall? What is that?
Faneuil Hall.
Faneuil.
Yeah.
That's it. Faneuil Hall. I did all that. That was my first experience, by the way, with the exception of New York and Manhattan, walking around there, of actually having to step over rats.
You had to step over rats in Massachusetts?
I did.
Really? I haven't. And I used to do a guided tour for the scouting organization. I used to do a Freedom Trail walk. And in scouting, we get to sleep on the USS Constitution, which was a boat commissioned by George Washington. It's Old Ironsides, its name.
Yep.
So we get to sleep on the boat. And I have pictures of the detailed woodwork of that boat. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's exciting, man. I'm glad you got to do that. But just the history, if you ever get to go to the New England states, do it. The only one I missed was Maine. So I got to go back. Got to see Maine. The work you're doing is extraordinary, and nobody seems to know about it. Why is that?
Well, because I usually don't talk about it except for circles, because most people don't read. They don't understand the basics, and they don't understand how important it is to know their rights and where they come from so they can secure their rights. Or know when they're under oppression.
Not an accident. They took civics out of school.
No.
Thomas Jefferson said the government, learning about our U.S. government, the history of it, that's all been removed from the schools for decades now.
And people think law is difficult. And they think it's too difficult to understand because there's a facade. They put an artificial system in place to obscure the Constitution and rights and how easy it really is. Thomas Jefferson said it should be so simple you should understand it while plowing your fields. So you can know when you're under oppression. It was supposed to be so simple that you could know, binary, either they're following the law or they're not. That's it.
We don't even read it. We don't know the Constitution. We don't even read it.
No, and if we read it,
even
We allow
smart
somebody else
people,
to tell us.
smart people seem to be so willing to obey authority without questioning it. Why do you think that is?
Because they file titles and tiaras from the moment we're born. We're told to mind authority, right? And that's the whole purpose, because they wanted compliance. So they taught us how to mind authority. So we don't ask questions anymore. We see somebody with a badge, and we don't ask them if they have the authority to do that which they claim they have the authority to do. We stop looking. In the old America, the founding of America, you had to ask for authority, and they had to demonstrate it. Now it's presumed. So
You're
that's the
right.
problem.
You're right. And where did you go? My apologies. I went away for a second. I'm sorry about that. That was you were making such a great point. You're right though. We're allowing it, aren't we? We're sitting back and allowing it.
We are, and we're too busy looking at the weather, the symptoms, the rain, and the things that are going on. And we don't look at, the house is on fire, but we're not looking at the structure. We're not looking to see why the house is on fire. We're allowing other people to tell us how the house got on fire, and that's always a bad thing, because the excuses that the creature makes is always in benefit of the creature. So it's self-referential.
One thing that set us apart from really any other government, our constitutional republic, was built on the right to own your own property. They had not no freedoms like that anywhere in the world in the past. You could own a house, but you never really owned property. But yet we don't really. My biggest frustration, and out here in California, and it's on the ballot this coming November, they're trying to destroy and dismantle Prop 13, which was when a whole lot of patriots got together and said, no, you don't get to keep raising property taxes on us anytime you feel like it. Well, I'll go one step further. I don't understand how they get away with property taxes, period. How can I own a home on paper, on title, legally, but I don't own the land underneath it? I have to pay you rent to live in the home that I purchased? Makes no sense to me. And everybody says, well, it's for the schools, or well, it's this, or well, it's that. They make excuses for our taxes should never have been put on us in the first place. That seems to be like some kind of foreign language when I say that. People's eyes glass over. Why is that?
Well, it's because it's not so simple. If you look at the law, Massachusetts actually codified in the Constitution taxes, property taxes. But here's the caveat. Taxes couldn't be used for whatever they chose to use it for, just like in the U.S. Constitution. Let's use that because that's the biggest scam. If you look at the Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution, it lists all the powers of Congress that were delegated. And that matters because only things listed do they have the power to do. Now, if you actually read the list, you're going to be very upset because you're going to see something immediately. Then how are they doing all these other things? That's the question, but nobody will read. Article 1, Section 8 is the list, and there's only 17 items on that list that they're allowed to do. 17. Can people not read 17 different items? That's what we call subject matter jurisdiction. Those are the subject matters that Congress has jurisdiction over, nothing else. So then when we look at Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, which is the very first one, it says you have the right to tax for what? The general welfare. Now, that means, in modern era, that means welfare programs. And 72% of the money in our culture goes to welfare programs. That's not what it meant.
72%?
Yes.
Is that high now?
Yes. So James Madison said, general welfare clause is not to be construed as a general grant. All it means is for the production of number 2 through number 17. In other words, of those 18 things that they have the authority to do, 17 things that they have the authority to, because 18 is what we call a necessary and proper clause, the taxes were only for 2 through 17 to fund those things that they're allowed to do. That's it. General welfare. generally. Just like the U.S. government has general jurisdiction over things that we share in common as a state, as all the states. Because we didn't want to have 50 different currencies. So we have one currency under the general control of the U.S. government. But they screwed that up too, but that's another story. So they only have 17 different powers. That's it. But yet half of the code that's currently written is what they call non-positive law, which means it's not law. It's non-binding law.
But yet we comply.
Correct. And we never question it. So you said, well, it's on its face, it's law. And what does that mean? That means, well, as long as those people who know it's on its face, it's law, but it's not really law, they can challenge it. The rest of you have to comply.
Do you think our elected representatives, of course, if the populace is stupid, they're going to vote, they're going to elect stupid people. Do you think the elected representatives know these kind of things and they just like, oh, well, I'm not going to say anything, or they just don't even know either, do they?
No, they don't. And I mean, nobody has really learned since late 1800s. Civics is completely destroyed since late 1800s. Woodrow Wilson put the final nail in it in the early 1920s. But
that guy was wicked.
Yeah, they had to wait for him. So in the late 1800s, we already started having people, especially Massachusetts, shopping around for compulsory education systems. They knew that they had to get control of our education system. So they went to Prussia, which is modern day Germany of all places, and adopted their system, Prussian education. And the person, Johann Fichte, is the person who created that system, said the school must fashion the child and fashion him in such a way that he simply cannot wish other than we wish him to wish. So it removed all of our agency on purpose. That was the entire purpose. And it said, he went further and saying, when this is thus perfected, we'll no longer need any police because we'll have a compliant populace.
We comply, which means we give consent. And we're giving consent against something that we don't even seem to know anything about. What's the difference between compliance and consent?
Big distinction. See, people think that we've complied. You can't comply with the destruction of your rights. They're unalienable. They can't be alienated from you. You can't comply. And complying doesn't mean you can give your elected representative permission to do anything. The only way elected permission is given is through expressed grants in the Constitution. That's it. So did you grant the authority or didn't you? If the permission was never granted, how did they get it? Through usurpation. So Alabama Constitution, Article 1, Section 35 says it the clearest of any constitution. Now, it's law in every single state constitution, but it says the sole and only legitimate end of government is to secure your rights. Every other function is an act of usurpation and oppression.
Say that again.
The sole and only legitimate end of government, which means the whole reason it exists, is to secure your rights. Every other function is an act of usurpation and oppression. Not some other function, every other function.
Yeah, now, it's set up there. They're supposed to just protect us from all enemies, foreign and domestic, basically, is the bottom line for the federal government. That's their job. But no, they've created just monolithic monstrosities. and we're paying for it all. We're paying for it. It's all coming out of tax dollars. They don't make any money. They don't do anything productive.
Yeah. So, if you read the Founding Fathers, they were brilliant.
Mm.
And the contemporaries that they followed were brilliant. Frédéric Bastiat, for instance, was a French economist, and he said that, you have rights, but when you're born, you live in a state of nature, right? And people will come in survival of fittest. So you enter into civilization to create a collective force for the protection of individual liberties. That's it. And government is a substitute agent for that collective force. You don't have law for law's sake. You have law because rights already exist. So people don't realize this. This is going to be the most important thing I leave people with, and that's why I put on my information. This is the most important thing. That's what comes first, law or government? The reality is law always came first. Law precedes government. Government does not make law. That is a misnomer. That is what we've been told to believe. Law is not made by government. Government is subject to law. And law is a rule of right. That is the proper definition of law, which means it's a rule that protects a right. That's it. That's the whole reason.
You want the best example of that, how true that is? Just look at the history of California and the whole spread west, where you had lawless territories, lawless towns, all getting rich off of digging for gold or whatever it is they're going for, killing each other over it. Then the law comes in, and then the government is established. Finest example is just the history of the U.S. and the spread west. Law has to come in, take care of things first, and then the government will get established. But you're right, now it's just completely taken over.
Yeah, so that's why when the legislature passes a bill, it has to be in line with pre-existing law. And that makes it positive law. When it's not in line with pre-existing law, it's non-positive law, which means it's not law at all. It's pretend. It's let's put a badge on him, make shit up.
Yes.
It's SMU. Shit made up.
Shit made up.
And then we comply with it because we don't know the difference.
How
the legislature got together
have become government managed permissions.
They got together, or compliance, right? So they got together and they created these law. That's not law. Capital lowercase l, because they're not
lowercase l. Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
So they're not really law. They're enactments, sure, but they're not bound by anything. So we're following things that have no jurisdiction over us. There's no subject matter jurisdiction for 90% of what's out there is called law. And they just keep on passing them and passing them and passing them. And the people
and one on top of another, and these little representatives create laws to pad the other law, and you got 28 things all incorporating and enforcing the same damn law, and it's just so ridiculous. Also, they can protect their phony baloney jobs and go, look, I'm doing something. It's just incredible. There's this overreach at this point is maddening.
Well, the people shirked their duty. They were supposed to step in. The people were supposed to be engaged. We were supposed to be self-governing republic.
And we're not.
And that's another thing people get wrong, what a republic is. A republic is a system of fixed law, not fluctuating law. The rule of law is fixed. And we have representatives to maintain that fixed law.
And we got a populace saying things like, well, the Constitution is fluid.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. So tell that to your landlord. I want you to tell your landlord that your lease is fluid.
Your lease is fluid.
Times have changed. The economy has changed. So therefore, you used to be able to pay $1,500 a month, but now you can only pay $500. Right. And then you'll have a saggy house and a box of stuff on the side of the road, right? That's what's going to happen. Exactly. Nobody accepts it. But the moment we say the Constitution is a living document, people's eyes gloss over and they just accept it. You would never accept the living document idea with any other document. Your phone bill living? How long is it going to take you the next time you get a phone bill and they doubled it? Then you're going to be on the phone with them tomorrow. We tolerate things that we shouldn't be tolerating. We comply with things we shouldn't be tolerating. And the reason we don't ask the first question, the most important question in this constitutional republic, by what authority?
By what authority? Yes.
By what authority?
We should use those words all the time now.
For everything. The phone bill, you ask him by what authority? A friend of mine just showed me his phone bill. It was $110. $13 was the actual gas he used. I mean, his gas bill. $13 was gas. $87 was for infrastructure. And the rest...
The power bill. I thought you said phone bill. Power bill. Okay, got it.
The net, I don't remember what I said. It was the power bill. Yeah. And so then he gets the next.
That's not fluid.
To give to somebody else. So he pays more in the bill to give to somebody else in charity, forced. Yep. Then they pay for infrastructure, and he only used $13. We paid over $110.
And now we're learning these little charities and so on that we're forced to give money to through our taxation without representation or through fees is being filtered right back to these politicians who are forcing us to give to them in the first place, the NGOs and so on.
And I think that's why people get mad with the taxes. I mean, we want police departments, we want protection, we want fire departments. If that was all that they were charging for, we wouldn't be griping. But the reality is they're not charging for those things. They're giving them to NGOs. They're giving them to things that the Constitution forbids.
Right.
So in Massachusetts, the Constitution prohibits giving any money to illegal aliens. It's not, I didn't write it. 1780, it says so. And yet they gave money to illegal aliens. Lots of money to illegal aliens. More than the $3,000 a month. And then they charge us in property taxes because they sold bonds for that money, and then they couldn't make those bonds, so now they sold bonds on the housing increase 13%.
Oh, there's so much fraud just in bonds right now.
Yes.
It's starting to come out. What is done in darkness will be exposed by the light. It's starting to come out, Ron. It's turning into it started as a trickle, it's turning into a fire hose.
Yeah, and I've exposed billions of dollars of fraud. But it'll never see the light of day because the system protects it. So I found other ways to make sure it gets out. And I'm going to be releasing a report very soon. So maybe next time we come on, I can show you how bad it is. Because I have all the goods on what the problem really is and where the problem, and I have it documented, which makes me not their favorite person.
There's something that's happening now in tyrannical deep state, because thank God for President Trump and what he's trying to do, and I pray that he is successful. But in the deep state, there's so much tyranny, and they're now bringing law enforcement by taking away everybody's freedoms. The flock cameras come to mind. Thousands of them put up now, spying on every single thing we do, where the innocent are being protected. And I think it was in Massachusetts, they're proposing that because of the, Sweden, the child abductions that are going on, instead of going after the gangs that are doing this, and the kidnapping of children to put into slavery, or to you have to pay a ransom to get your kid back. That kind of stuff's happening. It's rampant in Sweden. They want to put ankle monitors on the children. So it's to take away freedoms and freedom of movement, all under the guise of, well, it's for your own good and it's to protect you. That's what a tyrannical government does.
Or just like lock up all the healthy people during COVID. Lock up all the healthy. With the first time in history that the healthy people were the one who quarantined, and we call that normal. We didn't bat an eye. We call it protection. The founding fathers warned against this. When you actually look for safety instead of liberty, you deserve neither.
And they've set themselves up to where they're absolutely immune from prosecution. And they're being protected by a very dirty system of justice now, the judicial system. So dirty, so many filthy judges put into place by filthy people like Obama and Biden. They've set it up to where they're completely immune from any kind of prosecution. And all the bad guys, as much as I love my president, Ronald Reagan, why in the world did he think it was a good idea to protect the pharmaceutical companies from any kind of prosecution for poisoning us for our entire lives and forcing 70 plus inoculations and vaccinations on frickin' children, babies? And we're seeing the results of it, but yet they're denying they're immune from any kind of prosecution. How sustainable is that, Ron?
It's not sustainable. See, the reason we have a rule of right There's another half of that equation. Law is the rule of right. Whatever's contrary to the rule of right is an injury. So by law, whenever you violate a right, it's an injury, period. And whenever a man is wronged or damaged, he shall have a remedy. That's law. That's why we have law. You have a law to protect a right. And how does it protect a right? By giving an injury, by remedy for the injury. If you remove the remedy, what do you have now? You don't have law anymore. So let me read something for you.
Okay.
This is a binary. This is one of my favorite things to do. I do binaries. If you read, this is the Massachusetts Constitution. Now, Massachusetts Constitution was the model for all 50 state constitutions, and primarily the U.S. Constitution.
You were one of the first.
Yeah. The Founding Fathers actually wrote about it. In Federalist number 47, Madison talks about the Massachusetts Constitution. And I quote it all the time because we were the cradle of liberty for a reason. But not anymore, but because they're not following the law. But I want you to listen to these words, and then I want you to figure out how immunity exists. Ready? All power residing originally in the people and being derived from them, the several magistrates and officers of the government with authority, whether legislative, executive, or judicial. Who do we leave out yet? All three branches. So we haven't left, right?
Right.
Are there substitutes and agents? Means they're not the kings. They're the substitutes and agents, just like I told you, and at all times accountable. How can you have a right enshrined in black letter law that says they're all times accountable, and then there be such a thing as immunity? I'm waiting. How can they both be true? Either all times accountable or they're not. So then we stop pulling back immunity doctrine. Where does immunity doctrine come from? From judiciary. Judge made law. Which is why Madison quoted Massachusetts Constitution. Massachusetts Constitution, first Article 30, says the judiciary can't be involved in the executive or the legislative or either of them.
But they fully are.
Yes. And Hamilton in Federalist 78 says the court is the weakest of branches because it has no force, no will, merely judgment.
They cannot even make law.
They can't make law.
But yet the media and everyone else has given them such extraordinary power. Well, the Supreme Court said that abortion is legal in 1973. Well, no, that's not what they said. But everybody implied it, that's what it meant. And look what's happened to our nation. Thank God they rescinded that. But look how long it took. And to what end? There's more abortions now than there were ever before. It's all gone back to the states, which is where it should have been from the very beginning. Why are courts usurping this so much? It all depends on who you appoint and who you've elected as president to appoint.
But the problem for them is, even if you say it's for the states have to follow the law, and the law already outright bans abortion. But nobody knows where the law comes from. So it says a child is to be treated in the womb as if he's already born. That's the law. That's the law, that capital L, that came before the government. So you have to treat a child with full set of rights as if they're already born. The Bible doesn't say marries with fetal cells. It said marries with child. Right? They're already a child.
Good point. Oh, that's a good point. I've never heard anybody put it quite that way. I like that.
So the law, natural law, already exists. Now try to go and abort a wolf's baby. Go ahead, do it.
Oh yeah.
See what state of nature will do to you if you try to abort them.
Mm-hmm.
It won't work. And abortion, by the way, is not even. It's a medical procedure. But when it's not a medical procedure, it's couching something that it's actually being done. What is the medical procedure doing?
Ending life.
So and is that allowed? No, we don't allow that anywhere else. But when we call it a baby, we just call it abortion. The law doesn't allow it. But lawless legislatures ignore the law. And do I have the right to abort a baby? On my own? Do I have a right to kill?
No.
Then how can I delegate that authority to government? Because all power is delegated to government. All. Thomas Paine said there are two types of powers. There's delegated power and assumed power. All delegated power is trust. All assumed power is usurpation. There are no other standards. There's those two. That's it. So it's either delegated or it's not. I can't delegate something I do not have. How did I give government something I can't do myself? I can't.
So much of this, I blame the media, which I've been a part of my entire life. And the Holy Spirit revealed to me the 101st time that I read that scripture about the devil is the prince of the power of the air. That never made any sense to me until the Holy Spirit, I know it was the Holy Spirit, revealed it to me. That what goes through the air, Charlie? What do? Broadcast, satellite, any kind of information, any kind of television, radio, all of it, even cable, satellite, all goes through the air. The devil rules it. And we're so easily swayed. People who are common sense Christians, believers in Christ Jesus, not necessarily followers, but at least believers, who are making excuses for abortion, the murder of a child. Well, it's a woman's right to choose. I can't tell her what to do with her own body. You can let her do what she wants with somebody else's body? You don't have a problem with that? It's insane how weak we have become and how afraid we are even to speak out against such atrocities, such genocide. What has happened to us? I blame the media, man. I blame so much on the media.
That's because our nation was founded on Christian values. You can't separate Christianity from our law. It's not possible. And people don't know that. So when you start getting away from religion, when you start getting away from Christianity, not so much religion, but the faith, you get away from law. That's why the Founding Fathers says it's only good for a moral Christian foundation. It's not good for anything else. It's just a piece of paper. Otherwise, the Constitution doesn't enforce itself. So you need a moral Christian foundation of people for law to be protected of your rights.
Right.
Otherwise, we live in a state of nature, right? Or a state of slavery.
Animalistic.
Right. Other nations always lived in a state of slavery. They had a ruler, and they had to do what the ruler said. They didn't even live in a state of nature. They live in a state of slavery. They were told what to do, when to do it, and what to think and how to think. And arbitrary power is the very nature of slavery. When government exercises power it was never given over you in contravention of your rights, it is slavery. That's what it is. But the other side always picks on slavery, right? It's a big deal. We're still trying to pay for those sins. I agree with it. But why are we allowing it today?
We're the only nation that actually fought against it, so much
Correct.
so that, over 500,000 died fighting to end it. We're the only nation that did that. So stop bringing that up and stop throwing that in our faces. Sure, there was a time in the beginning, but it was accepted all over the world. It was just an accepted practice until this nation was established, one nation under God, on biblical principles, that we, the people, started questioning, why is this still going on? Why are we doing this? Pastors started speaking out against it, started bringing it up, going, this is wrong what we're doing. This has got to end. So much so that it came to a head and we were killing each other over it. And then I'm supposed to pay reparations, living in California, a state that never actually had slavery. You're high. Why don't you start thinking your lucky stars that you're even here and appreciate it and build it up and stop frickin' whining?
Because it's a means to divide. Now, nobody is familiar with the original draft of the Declaration of Independence, which had the 28th grievance, which shows Thomas Jefferson himself complaining about the king forcing slavery on the colonies. But nobody reads that because that would completely destroy all of the weaponry they've been using against the Founding Fathers all these years. Read the 20th grievance. I dare anybody on the your audience to go watch. I'll go find the 28th grievance of the Declaration of Independence and read it for yourself. Now, there was a debate. Why does the Declaration of Independence say life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, not life, liberty, and property? Why? Because property at the time was people were considered property, and they didn't want to codify that. So they changed it to pursuit of happiness.
Interesting.
It was conscious. It was a debate between Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin. They had a long talk about this. But let's believe what we're told about our founding fathers. Let's believe, because they owned them. Of course they owned them. And the king didn't allow them not to own them.
Right.
So we need to read, but nobody will read. Nobody will read Massachusetts Constitution, say at all times accountable, and then ask, well, how do you have immunity doctrines? And then there's an immunity doctrine called sovereign immunity, which is the most egregious, because the people are the sovereign. All power comes from the people. And then what they'll do is they'll disparage you, saying, well, you're a sovereign citizen. No, I'm not a sovereign citizen, but that term, I am sovereign. The people as a whole are sovereign. And the reason they don't like that is because they have inverted that. So now they say that they have sovereign immunity. How can the creature of the people have sovereign immunity? How do they become sovereign? It's an impossibility. They're not sovereign. They're the creature. And we have Van Horn-Lessee versus Doran, 1795, which is a Supreme Court ruling when the Supreme Court was doing what the Supreme Court was supposed to do, that even said so. The people are the creator, the government's the creature, and the Constitution is the sun that it revolves around. The creature revolves around. It's one of the best cases. Love it. Van Horn-Lessee versus Dorrance. When you had patriots actually in Supreme Court. And we have some today. If you read Gorsuch in Thomas's writings, they're actually quoting things from our founding era.
Yes, thank God for them, especially Clarence Thomas. Oh my goodness, extraordinary gentleman.
Yeah, and he talks about how precedent is an orangutan. I mean, it's a train, and you keep on putting cabooses on the train without finding out who's driving it. And when you get to the front, you find out it's being driven by an orangutan, which means it's not being law. And you keep on attaching cabooses to something that was never tethered in law.
Which is what I was saying about the law after law after law after law being passed here in California, all piling on to something that's already there and established.
That's self-referential. It gets
this is administrative procedure, isn't it? This is administrative procedure instead of substantive justice, as you have also written. Does this apply?
Yes, and that's what the very definition of tyranny is. In Federalist 47, the founding fathers wrote that when you collapse all three branches of government into one, it's the very definition of tyranny. So in the executive branch, we have executive agencies that were delegated authority that they can't be delegated, because that would mean the executive agency would have lawmaking authority, which it can't have. So they create regulations, then bind the people to those regulations, which they can't, then enforce those regulations, and then judge violations of those regulations in the same branch. And then after you go through that tyranny, then you can go into the court system. Article 3 court that the Constitution provides. But you have to be oppressed by it first, tyranny first, and then you get maybe justice. But then when you go to the court, you have to go through their procedures that they've created.
So much of it is through fear, or it's for our own good. As we saw classic examples during the whole COVID shutdown and that disaster, which was planned, predestined, had been planned for a while. We can't be having this. We can't give this Trump guy a second term. He's going to codify all the things that he has started. We've got to throw a monkey wrench in. I know. Let's unleash a poisonous virus. Fauci, right now, brought up in the hearing, has pled the fifth over 100 times now. He's not going to answer anything. But it was all under the guise of, well, it's for your own good. Oh, we got to have you voting by mail because we can't dare take the chance of you showing up at a polling place and getting sick because we care about you. Oh, by the way, we're going to let all the illegals in and none of them are going to be vaccinated, and we're not even going to test them if they have COVID. But you, however, they're liars, they're cheats, they're frauds, but it's all under the guise of fear. And so many of us, no greater way to rule a massive amount of people than through fear. And that's what's been happening. how do we stop that? How do we dismantle that? How do we wake people up? We have an alternative media now, guys like me doing these kind of shows, having people on like Ron, who hopefully you're watching, and you'll share this show and you'll hit that like button to help it grow and help with the algorithms. Hopefully you'll share this with others and not be afraid, not shrink back. But other than that, so much is through fear. That was the whole J6 thing. Oh, we're going to target them. We're going to make them look awful so these people don't ever do that again. Through fear.
False evidence appearing real. And that is the devil's primary weaponry. So prior to me getting involved in law, my expertise was in human behavior. And I wrote a book called Don't Die in a Rowboat. And one of the pieces of Don't Die in a Rowboat is talking about how we're running from sea monsters that aren't chasing us with fear, right? We turn a little octopi into a kraken. So imagine you're in the middle of the ocean.
That's right.
Yeah. You don't want to go in the middle of the ocean because you don't know what's out there.
Right.
And fear is that unknown. We don't know what's out there, so we won't do it. And and the government knows that. So they teach us to, they program us to stay in a circle, right? We go round and round a circle, protected, safe. And I call that the social, the currents of social expectation. So we get dragged around the currents of social expectation, and we never go out in the open ocean because of fear. And out in the middle of the open ocean was where all freedom is. But we stay compliant, going round and round in circles, the North Atlantic Gyre, from schools, media, churches, and education, and friends, family, acquaintances, social relatives, and all the program we accumulate keeps us stuck in the loop. And then they tell us, if you go out there, you're going to get hurt. And sure enough, we go out there. One brave soul goes out there and comes back with his tail between his legs. And it's not because he shouldn't go out there. It's because we have not built a strong enough boat. So when you do go out there, you get pummeled, yes, because you're in the middle of the open ocean in a rowboat.
And nobody's there behind you cheering you on.
Right. And so then it just is a self-referential loop, because now look, see, I told you it was going to happen, so nobody else goes out there. It reduces the number of people who go out there. And that's what J6 was all about. J6 was, look at all these people who did something. Let's demonize them so nobody will ever think about doing that again. And let's make the media talk about it 24/7. And call it insurrection. Though not one person was charged with insurrection. That's really funny. How can you have all this insurrection in the media and the use of insurrection when that's not even what insurrection means? And not one person was charged with insurrection. How can not one person get charged with insurrection if it was insurrection? Can you tell me that?
Great question.
But nobody's going to ask that question. Nobody's going to read what
I had people on in my own party saying, well, if they went into the Capitol building, they broke the law and they're deserving what they get. They shouldn't have done that. That's before they even knew any of the facts that the law enforcement was moving barriers and opening doors and inviting people in. We didn't see that video until it was released, thank God. Finally, Tucker Carlson, before he went the way of I don't know what the heck's happened to that guy. Sad, really. But he posted all that video and we saw it. We saw it. Them inviting these patriots in who had showed up to say, we don't want this election. Something was wrong. We don't think this should be, we're contesting this election. We don't think that it should go through as if it's legit. It's not. I'm not using the right words right now. I'm sorry. I'm having apparently a senior moment. Can't even think of the words. But it worked. It was effective, wasn't it? And then all these people were arrested just for showing up. Louis Herms, who was on before you, he was there. He said he had the FBI outside of his house monitoring him and watching him. He said this went on for like a year and a half. I have friends who were there. They were scared to death that they were going to get that knock on the door and it was going to be the FBI, or even worse, storming in like they did to Roger Stone and all these other people who were just patriots who were brought up on false charges, like our president brought up on false charges in New York. 34 counts. Well, those 34 counts were all because of each individual check that was written. It was supposedly, allegedly, one misdemeanor, which the Letitia James and all of that lot turned it into a felony. They worked the law. They're doing it as administrative rule going against the actual established law. They're just doing what they want at this point. They've gone completely rogue. And the left is in its, I believe right now, in its death knell. Especially out here in California, they see they're dark at the end of the tunnel and they're fighting like crazy now. They're doing what they want at this point. They don't care about the consequences. They're doing everything they can to keep their power. What do you think of the chances that it's going to be made right?
Well, we have to understand who we are and what the law is. When we return to the law, all of these things get solved because the law already requires accountability. The law already requires that they can't do all of these things, and the law already has the consequences. Now, most people don't know this. So our entire legal system is based on somebody called William Blackstone. So William Blackstone is the foundation of all our legal system in America. American jurisprudence comes from William Blackstone. Well, we have an American version of William Blackstone called St. George Tucker. And St. George Tucker said, if in a limited government the public functionaries exceed the Constitution, every such act is an act of usurpation, and as such treason against the sovereignty of the people. That is the precise terminology in law. When the government goes outside of their grant, it is treason against the people, period. Full stop, end of story. And when you're doing it for the sake of the government, by the government, for the government, of the government, it's continuity of treason. That's what we're living in. We're living in the government, shielding the government for the sake of the government, not for the sake of what the sole and only legitimate job of the government is.
Have we not been programmed to do that? I mean, I look at old TV shows and old movies from the 50s, 60s, after the Second World War, and it was all about the government's all powerful and you can trust us. We're the government and everybody's got to pay their taxes. It's our responsibility. It's our civic duty. It's our patriotic duty to fall in line with everything because the government has our best interests at heart. And I was one of them. I fell in line with all of that until I've seen so much graft, corruption, and filth since I've been doing this show. I'm awake. I was always a conservative, but man, I'm next level now. I'm getting it. I'm finally getting it, buddy. We've been programmed, and now we got at one point, I think that our U.S. government did have our best interests at heart. And under President Trump, I do believe he's really trying to gain that back again. I hope I'm not wrong. I got to believe in that. I'm going to believe in that. I believe in the Lord first, though, and God's will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That's the most important thing to me. But have we not been programmed successfully?
That's what everything is about, programming. From the time we're little, we've been learned how to pretty much think about everything.
Which is why it's so important for the left to take over education, isn't it? Has been for a long time.
Everybody wants to talk about Hitler, but that's what Hitler did. He took care of the state, he took over the religion, and
that's what Mao Zedong did. China.
You have to get control over all of the means of reaching the people, and when you do, you get control of the minds of the people. And we have churches, schools, and the media, and then our friends, family, acquaintances, associates, relatives on social media watching the schools, the churches, the media, and it's just a loop of disinformation, programming us. What do you think it says on TV? TV program. Right. Why is it a TV program? Because it's programming you. Right? It's telling you, and I'm watching an Apple TV show called Silo. Very interesting. Because it's about people trapped in a silo, and that what they perceive to be the outside world is filtered through a camera with a filter on it, projected onto a screen. So they never really see what's on the outside. But what they're told on the outside is death and destruction. So nobody's allowed to go outside the silo. And they're not allowed to talk about the history either. So they're not allowed to know what happened prior to 140 years when there was a rebellion.
I think I've seen a couple of those episodes.
So it's a very interesting.
I think I've seen a couple of those shows.
The depth of what I understand from understanding the structural creation and blueprint of American jurisprudence, you see all of the parallels, and it's fascinating. So I'm watching it just because I want to see what they're trying to communicate. So it's going to be very interesting. But that's what we're living through. We're living through a false premise or a fiction of reality. That which we believe to be true that has no basis in reality. See, everybody has a perception of reality. And either that perception of reality aligns with objective truth or it doesn't. And 73% of what the average person believes is false. Think about that. If 73% of what you believe is false, and that's how you're guided every single day, how well do you think you're doing? Would you get on a plane? And let me say if I invite you on a plane, I'm going to take you on a plane ride to Hawaii, and you get onto the plane, all expense paid. You get onto the plane, and the pilot says, you hear them over, talking in the cockpit, and he says, 73% of our navigation systems have a virus. Are you sitting on that plane?
If they're a good pilot, they don't need a navigation system. They can just follow compass and stars and so on. But I don't know. Free trip to Hawaii. I might chance it.
Well, I wouldn't. No way. So if 73% of their systems that guide the plane are in virus mode, I wouldn't get on it. And that's what running most people's lives. 73% of what they believe is false. And it came from these four sociological forces: schools, churches, media, friends, family, acquaintances, relatives. And nobody questions it.
No,
and because it's
why the left has so successfully infiltrated schools, government, media, churches.
And that's what they did early on in American history. And the founding fathers knew all of this. So the founding fathers warned about this. So then we had, in 1814, they started coming into our nation. War of 1812 is, I don't even want to get into that because that's a huge, huge problem. The War of 1812, and then 1823, we have the influence where they pretty much declared war on our republic, the foreign nations in Europe, because republicanism was spreading into Spain and to Portugal, and they couldn't have that, so they had to stop it. So that's where the Monroe Doctrine came from. But we had infiltration early on. So in fact, when Lincoln was getting to be president, he hadn't even run yet, and the media had gone out and told people about who Lincoln was, that South Carolina seceded. He didn't say a word. Lincoln hadn't even get a campaign speech yet, and they already made up their mind about him. That's the power of the media.
Nothing's changed, has it? We haven't gotten smarter.
No, that's what we say, progress, right? The entire nation has been declined from progress. The progressive era did so much damage in the 1920s, Industrial Revolution, did so much damage to America that I've been fighting to get us back to even that point in history, because there was so much damage done since then. And it was done thinking we were making progress. But the greatest progressive act in the history of mankind was a self-governing republic that the founding fathers put in place. And what are we progressing towards now? The very nature that existed before the founding era: slavery, or living under a king. That's where we are. And we call it progress. And we think we're enlightened.
I wish I were as smart as you. I wish I had your knowledge and education, but I don't. So I talk to people who are at that level, and I appreciate you so much and your boldness for speaking out and taking a chance. You could have just had your nice little cushy teaching job and had a nice little retirement. You could have fallen right in line with everybody, but you haven't, and you don't, and you won't. I pray for you. I pray for your safety. I want you to thrive. I want you to keep going. I want you to be successful. You're not a prognosticator. I'm not going to ask you for a crystal ball. What are your thoughts, though, knowing human nature the way you do? And you and I have one similarity. we live in Reelsville. I'm not going to do pie in the sky. Well, we got to speak live. I'll tell you what, you go and speak life all you want. I'm going to speak. These are the actual facts, and here's what's going on. Here's what I see about people and know about people and how I think they're going to react. Based on that, what do you think is going to be the success with the midterm elections with President Trump, and how much is he going to be able to accomplish with an electorate that seems to be completely on autopilot?
I think there's less people who are unaware than there were before. And the problem is we have systems that are stealing our election, and that's a whole other issue. People think that the election was just stolen as of late. I know the exact date it was stolen. The predicate was 2000. Why we had hanging chads was a direct causation. You need problem, reaction, solution. The government always needs a problem, either a problem that already existed, which they'll piggyback on, or a man-made created problem, so that they can manage the reaction and provide the solution. Well, the solution after 2020 was election machines. Because those hanging chads were such a problem, we need to have election machines. And then 2004, at the White House table, George Bush ordered the creation of election software so they could steal the election in Venezuela. George Bush lost both of his elections, both of them. Now, did I want the other party, the other candidates to win? No, neither. But now I know what I know about him, I don't want him either. But we've been fed false equivalents, this one or that one, and that's the parties. That's the damage of the parties. We're being fed people who don't have our interests.
We were fed George W. Bush, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
There were all kinds of great candidates who announced they were going to run for president of the United States of America, but then all of a sudden the party itself started telling all of us, oh, no, we're going with this Bush guy. I'm sorry, who? What? Oh, yeah, he owned the Texas Rangers. And that makes him qualified to run the nation because, well, he's the son of George H.W. Bush. And the guy who did not win re-election, only served one term, that guy. Yeah, that's right. That's who we're behind. It's George W. all the way. George or nothing.
One of the most evil men.
The party put that on us.
America was George H. Bush. I mean, people can go look at Project Eagle 2, and they'll be blown away. What is on the record? We have FBI records proving Project Eagle 2, but that's another story for another day. I'm completely versed in all of the Bush hierarchy and what's happened in that family, and pretty much everything that happened since 1776 forward. I was actually writing a book called The Untold Republic about the history of the drift from 1776 to today. And so I've had to examine all of these periods of history. And the history is fascinating. All the people who were killed. We had so many founding fathers who were killed. It's not even funny. And people don't even know because they're not even referenced as being killed.
All the ones who signed the Declaration of Independence, oh my God, they were just ruined. So many of them were ruined.
Yeah, and people
losing their lives even.
Thomas Jefferson and John Adams on the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence were both died on the same day. Now the problem is John Adams wasn't ailing at all. And Thomas Jefferson was sick, but he wasn't expected to die anytime soon. And they both died on the 4th of July in 50 years later.
Yeah.
And then Madison.
They got off easy. There were many others who were destroyed and ruined. But so there's a price to be paid. There's a price to be paid. And that doesn't answer my question, though, about your thoughts of President Trump's success at righting this
think that
upside down ship.
The success all depends on how much he can untether us from the foreign influence that has been injecting themselves in our Republican,
most especially China, which he's doing.
And that's what he's been doing. So people think he's supposed to be doing something domestically, and he hasn't been, because he's focused on getting the hands out of the control apparatus of our nation. And then once all of that's gone, then we can stop dismantling the corruption inside the republic. But you can't do the other without first getting the power structures out of our nation that are giving the internal treason support. So I'm hoping it's going to be successful. But I trust in God, and I trust in what I can do.
I don't trust in a lot of people on our side. The same people who say, well, there's no arrest, so I'm not even going to vote in the midterm election. You know what? Get out of my truck. You're
Cowards.
walking from here. I don't even want you in my truck. Get out. You talk that way. What the hell's wrong with you? But that's just me. All right, my friend. We can find so much about Ron, and I encourage you to, and I hope you will, at We the People 2, the number 2, We the People 2.us, not .com, not .net, .us. I love that. We the People 2.us. Get involved with what Ron's doing. You've written books. Can we buy them through your website, or where do we find them? How do we get involved in what you're doing and help?
Yeah, we on the website. I have a Wednesday night class. It's called Rule of Law, and we're right now dismantling the drift. So in the first 12 modules, I break down how America was designed, the blueprint of America, and now I'm going how we've drifted from that blueprint.
Is this an online thing? Can anybody join in on this?
Yes, and it's on Rumble. They can go look at Rumble channel for free, and then they can go on the We the People 2 under Education tab. And there's 2 series: there's the blue and the green series. Just and they tell you one's beginner, one's intermediate. And it's better to go through the website because I give you handouts. I give you study guides. I give you the slides. So you get a lot more if you go to the website. But you can still watch it on Rumble. You just won't get the backup data. So you'll be wondering what I'm referencing when you're on, because I also have the documents. Right now I'm showing the historical drift, and I'm proving from court records what the court is doing and how court is ignoring law. But I don't just tell people, I show them an actual record or FOIA or a notice I've sent and the responses from the government and how the government reacts. So I've been tracking this for 5 years now, and I have thousands and thousands of records.
And that's on Thursday nights?
On Wednesday nights. So it's going to be actually.
Oh, shoot. Tonight. What time?
It's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern. Okay. So 4 p.m. here on the West Coast. And what's the Rumble channel?
Well, it's We the People 2 Rumble channel.
Oh,
but
okay. The number 2, We the People 2 on Rumble?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And you can find all my old classes there. I do a whole 10-part Constitution class. I've done one on Common Law Academy, and now I'm on Rule of Law. And
I got a couple of people out here in mind who I've become great friends with who are just constitutional. They're hungry for it. They want to know more. They want to study it more. One is Debbie Red Hat. I got to get Debbie watching your show.
Class.
She's in your class.
Yeah. And this is my book, Rule of Law, Nation of Laws, Not of Men. And that's available on Amazon. I wrote that. Plus, I wrote another book on human behavior called Don't Die in a Rowboat. And both of them under the Rule of Law tab on my website.
Don't die in the rowboat. Wow.
And this book, Rule of Law, is good to read, but then give to one of your public servants. And that's why I wrote it. So it can be easily understood by anyone, especially your public servants.
For good old boys from Bakersfield, even we can understand it. Good.
Yep.
Thank you for that. Ron BOUCHARD, you're a treasure, my friend. I wish you nothing but the best. And I want to get you on a lot sooner than it's been a couple of years, I think. We gotta do this more often. Thank you, my friend.
All right.
I'll talk to you soon. Man, oh man. Follow through with him and get his books, support his mission. His mission. And yes, he's a follower of Christ Jesus. Yes, he's a strong believer. Treasure people like that. Support them, lift them up, help them. Get involved. Even just an email saying, man, I love what you're doing. Keep going. He's going to keep going anyway, but you just don't understand what an encouragement that is. When I'll get a positive comment or something like that, I love golf, but I don't play it very often. Every time I do it 3-4 times a year, I think, why don't I do this all the time? Because I really enjoy it. Not good at it, but I really enjoy it. And it's that one shot, that one chip, that one drive down the fairway that goes further than anything you've hit in a while, that keeps you coming back, makes you think, I'm going to do this again. All right, that was all worth it, that one shot. That's how a positive comment or a note or an email or a phone call, that's the effect it can have on somebody who's just been in the middle of this fight for a while now, like Ron has. Do what you want with that information. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America. But most importantly, America, bless God. Hey, Ron, don't go away.